mentioned, here are the solutions that we have for Analytics Cloud, and I'll make a little more mention of those at the end of our session today, but our topic will be the APOS Insight for Cloud solution and its fit within there. But you'll see the other solutions for Analytics Cloud, and as well, here's the listing of solutions that we have for BusinessObjects. And while we won't be talking about these solutions, I certainly want you to be aware of the kinds of topics that we have been dealing with customers in the BusinessObjects realm over the last 20 years or so in our work in that area. Part of the reason for showing that slide is it's a recognition that certainly some of you on the line today are coming from a BusinessObjects background and are currently deployed BusinessObjects and are looking at deploying Analytics Cloud or in the midst of deploying Analytics Cloud alongside BusinessObjects, or perhaps making a transition towards Analytics Cloud in sort of a hybrid phase. Part of the reason for mentioning that is that there's a recognition of whether it's an on-premise BusinessObjects deployment or a cloud-based BusinessObjects deployment where it's in a hosted cloud or a hosted environment or a private cloud environment. Really, in either case, there's certainly a recognition of the kinds of information needs that you have in managing BusinessObjects. We've been working with this community, as mentioned, for a very long time. As our work has taken us into Analytics Cloud and Analytics Cloud deployments and customers, we recognize while there are some very important differences, there are certainly some similarities in the kinds of information that are needed for the BI operations team. So whether you are a BusinessObjects user alongside Analytics Cloud or not, it's important that we can identify the fact that within these information needs, we can tend to put them into two categories. One is operational management, information that's required to address operational management, or information that's required to address governance and compliance needs. We'll look more at these two categories. So those are the consistent pieces of information, but let's talk briefly about what's not the same. So in dealing with BusinessObjects customers, we know that it's a very common question or set of questions to know about: are my servers performing well? Is my infrastructure sized correctly? Should I be planning to upgrade or apply a software patch? Have considerations about software conflicts? And again, do I have the team to and resources in order to manage those factors? Well, this is really the key separation between BusinessObjects and Analytics Cloud, or one of the key separations, is that this is now all addressed and cared for and taken care of by SAP. So as a hosted solution, they are responsible for all of these kinds of questions for Analytics Cloud, and it's no longer your concern. So great benefits there. However, we can certainly identify that there are lots of operational and governance and compliance questions and information needs that the BI and analytics operations team needs to know about or has questions about and wants to be able to address their Analytics Cloud deployment better. So operational management, what are the kinds of questions that come up here and information needs that come up? Well, is the system available? Are the data assets that we're performing analytics on, are they available? How is performance of the system and the reports that are running through the system? And whether that's a single location or whether that's multiple locations, we need to address those kinds of performance questions about. If we're having any challenges in the environment, how do we go about troubleshooting that? Perhaps it is those report performance issues. How can we get information to deal with troubleshooting in an effective way? And a very common question in the BusinessObjects world, and certainly same concepts apply in Analytics Cloud, is this matter of impact analysis. If I make changes to my databases, what is the impact on the analytics and reports and stories that exist within Analytics Cloud? From a governance and compliance standpoint, similar sorts of questions, but of course, governance and compliance brings a different emphasis, a different view into some of these same sorts of information needs. Well, reliability and consistency is very central to the governance and compliance questions, and probably no better example of that than Sarbanes-Oxley, which really needs to know about financial reports and have reports changed, and if they've changed, what has changed? Is it producing the same data now as it did some period ago, the last reporting period, or certainly within the Analytics Cloud environment, when there are updates and upgrades happening within the Analytics Cloud environment, what is the impact of that on the information that's being provided? How is stability and reliability of the system? And if there are challenges in there, how do you troubleshoot those? And how effective and response ready is the team in addressing those? Again, from a governance and compliance perspective, that's all about having oversight and controls in place in order to be able to answer yes to all of these kinds of questions. Just like in any BusinessObjects environment or in any BI tool, or for that matter, any system, whenever there's an upgrade, whenever there's a change of platform or the foundational conditions of the platform, it brings all of these kinds of questions to light. And so as we think about the upgrades for Analytics Cloud, which of course SAP is taking care of, whether that's on a quarterly basis, which is most common, or whether that's on even a bi-weekly basis, which certainly there are still some customers getting bi-weekly updates. All of these questions that we've talked about really come to light. Extra focus is put on these kinds of questions. And as deployments get more and more content within their Analytics Cloud environment, these questions are continuing and becoming more and more important and getting greater focus. All right. These kinds of information needs apply whether it's a regional deployment and that regional deployment is being addressed by a single Analytics Cloud environment, or perhaps you've got responsibilities for a global deployment, which again may be addressed by a single Analytics Cloud deployment, or maybe you have more complexity in your needs where there is multiple Analytics Cloud deployments. And you need to have visibility. You need to have visibility into those deployments, and not just the deployments, but you may have questions that are location specific. So you may need information that tells the story of how performance is at any given location. So these are information needs that as the BI and analytics operational team, you need to be able to answer these questions and respond effectively to that. One other element that is unique to Analytics Cloud is that there are different kinds of approaches within organizations in how they have their SAP Analytics Cloud tenants structured. For lots of deployments, they have a single production tenant, and that serves all of their needs across the board. For other organizations, they have engaged a preview tenant, which gives them visibility to upcoming changes in advance of the upgrades that are happening. So regardless of how you've got things structured, the questions that we talked about previously are still extremely important and will become more and more important. And regardless of whether you've got a preview tenant or not, it doesn't really change the fact that you need to know the answers to these questions. It simply determines the speed and pressure under which you need to answer those questions.